Welcome to the SMI community meeting for October 27th, 2021. Just a few agenda items today, making a note of a winter holiday schedule for this call. We will have this meeting once in November on November 10th and once in December on December 8th. The alternate week would have been November 24th and December 22nd, both of which are too close to various holidays. So we will not have meetings those days. We'll resume our normal schedule. Our normal schedule will resume Wednesday, January 5th, 2022, which sounds like a fake date that should not exist. Hello. Just talking about how we looked at a calendar and realized we will only have this meeting once in November and once in December because the other ones will fall over holiday times.
Gotcha.
Other than that, I think we had one proposed discussion item already. So Keith, would you like to talk about your discussion item?
Sure. So this discussion item came about through some work that I'm doing on the STO SMI controller SDK and getting that hooked up with the SMI conformance GitHub action. I came to realize that we kind of have two sources of truth for at least the CRDs for the service mesh interface. One source of that is the SMI SDK Go repo, which is the original kind of SDK used to create SMI libraries. The second place now is in the SMI controller SDK, which according to Nick and Michelle is kind of the spiritual successor to the SMI SDK Go. And there are a couple of repos kind of using each one utilizing source of truth. And the way I've discovered this is that turns out the SMI conformance test through Meshery use the CRDs defined in SMI SDK Go that don't match the CRDs defined in the controller SDK with Coot Builder. So I kind of want to just kind of present that to the group and figure out what we want to do as far as maybe a more formal deprecation of the SMI SDK Go family of libraries. That would be SMI SDK Go, the Istio. The old Istio SDK, that's where I originally made an issue. Way back when, there are a couple of comments there. People are looking to kind of figure out where they go for development. Now that the new version of the Istio SMI controller is within the Service Mesh Interface GitHub organization, it might be time to start a formal deprecation process for the previous version of the SMI SDK. Thoughts, comments there?
Yeah, I think in particular, when you highlight that the conformance suite is using something that maybe isn't going to be updated or isn't going to be maintained, that's obviously a problem. So that's something that we need to follow up on. I believe the conformance things that Meshery is doing are open source, right? So can we put PRs in to update them, or is it more complex than that? Looked at this?
So what I've done so far is I've just tried to the changes aren't too substantial. The big one that's causing conformance tests to fail with the lack of short names in the Coot Builder, the new version of it versus the short names that are defined in the SMI SDK, original SMI SDK. And so I've just, my initial goal now is to kind of bring the two into parity. So make the new version of the SMI SDK match the older version. I've got a PR in right now. Nick reviewed early this morning, and waiting for he had me change some things and waiting for his second review. But once that's done, I think that we'll be pretty close to parity, and at that point we don't have to worry about losing anything. The conformance tests are open source. They're in a kind of weird location, and it's layer 5/learn layer 5 repo. Yeah, it was difficult for me to find, but I've got a couple of issues raised in Meshery, and I can kind of make an informational one to kind of say base any new versions of SMI conformance off of the CRDs in this repo. And there won't be any actions required, hopefully, because they'll be in parity, but it'll be a good kind of informational step to let that organization know what we're going to be using moving forward.
Yeah, that makes a lot of sense. Thank you for taking the initiative on that. Mike, you were kind of looking interested. What do you have commentary that you want to add to this topic?
Mostly just nodding in agreement. Yeah, the only reason I can think of that it wouldn't be updated in Performance Suite yet is that the newer version isn't complete or isn't ready, but it sounds like Keith is working already on ironing that out and finishing that up. So that sounds great.
I want to kind of go back to Keith's point about deprecation of that entire family, including like the Istio one. I know Marlo has been coming to the call and looking for updates. Is the new controller repo going to meet all of her needs? Do we know? Like, what kind of follow-up, if any, have we done there?
So not at the moment. I'm working with Marlo's org separately to help them with some Terraform in their CI. So neither the old Istio controller nor the current Istio controller currently meet the needs of Kubeflow. The work I'm doing now, my goal is to get the new Istio SMI controller fully meeting the SMI spec, which is the reason why I'm spending this time getting the SMI conformance tests set up through GitHub Actions. So we can kind of monitor progress there, get them reporting to a place, and kind of track that. But I've implemented some actions for traffic target for creating an update for Istio, and that'll be an ongoing conversation. Really, what I would love to see happen is to kind of utilize the deprecation kind of transfer over to the new SMI controller SDK as a opportunity to ask for contributions. There have been a couple of, like I said, comments on the previous Istio library and around the time of KubeCon and even before. So I think that there's interest in creating, SMI is a fantastic idea and people want to use it. They want to know who's using it. And so people want to contribute, but it's not immediately clear right now where to go and how to start contributing. So I'd love to get the SMI conformance tests set up, as well as just a couple other things so that people can contribute to the Istio controller more easily.
Appreciated, Keith. Thank you. And to sum up for those just joining us, Keith is pointing out that if we're working towards deprecating the original set of controllers and replacing them, we need to give people a very clear path. Like, for example, to make sure that the new Istio SMI controller covers the needs of Kubeflow, that sort of thing. Okay. So what do you think the next step is there, Keith?
I'm waiting on, like I said, my PR into to update the Helm chart for the new SMI, the base SMI controller. Once that's merged, I'll get the conformance action. I've already got a PR up for that in Istio that I'm kind of iterating on. I'll get that merged in. Then the Istio SMI controller will essentially be open for development. Nick Jackson had expressed interest in getting something similar set up for the console SMI controller, getting an SMI conformance tests as a GitHub action on the console SMI controller. So at that point, once they're ready for contribution, I think we can move forward with a more formal deprecation of the SMI, STK Go, and other family libraries.
That sounds great. It would make the most sense then to put a pointer in the README to where people should go and maybe archive the repos if we're, formally deprecating those. So,
yep.
Awesome. Mike, can you speak up with the link that you're putting in just so we can make sure to cover that?
Oh yeah, I found the Learn Layer 5 repo that Keith was referencing for the conformance tests, but I couldn't find the actual directory or where the switch to which version CRDs would be.
This is Dillian.
There we go. Got it. Answered in chat. Thank you.
No problem.
Awesome. Defined in the YAML. And then Delian, did you have something you wanted to add?
No, I'm sorry. Picked up the phone and it wasn't muted.
All right, fantastic. Okay, Michelle, I know that you had recently had some PRs or some issues that you were opening. Maybe it was around some of the traffic target stuff that Keith Maddox was talking about. Did you have anything you wanted to add around that or anything else?
Hey, no, I don't have anything to add. I don't have any open PRs. There is a rename PR that does need another review. And it looks like Johnson just needs to update the PR. So we're still waiting on his update, but no, nothing else. And Keith, I'm gonna I'm actually gonna do this right now, create a new adapter or new Istio controller maintainers group on GitHub, and then give you all contributor access. So you can do whatever you need to do there.
Awesome, thanks.
For sure, no problem.
Okay. Let's see. I think that's the end of our formal agenda. I wanted to reiterate for those who are joining us mid-call that I looked at the calendar and it looks like we are going to need to have one meeting in November, one meeting in December, just because of when the second meetings would be regarding holidays. So I've canceled the ones that are too close to Thanksgiving and too close to Christmas. We don't have, thank you for asking, Keith. We don't have anyone who is currently leading the multi-cluster meeting. So if you would like to if you would like to lead it, I would suggest maybe running that after the first of the year, just because adding anything to anyone's plate in November and December seems very fraught, but I see Delia nodding. So it's like,
I miss our multi-cluster discussions. I have not forgotten. It's a really interesting field. Actually, I keep paying attention to kind of this KEP in Kubernetes, where kind of the multi-cluster SIG is talking about something very similar to kind of what we were thinking. And on the one hand, we're delaying our meetups. On the other, we may benefit from kind of what the official KEP is. Mike, what do you think? Have you kept track of that?
Yeah, I've basically been doing the same thing and just kind of like lurking and listening in and like reading that cap and like watching where that is going.
Yeah.
And yeah, I think that like it's very much interesting. I think that at some point there needs to be like an integration unification of like that work, even if it's just to define like areas of scope for one and areas of scope for the other. Like the MCS stuff seems to be focused largely on an assumed shared identity of services, of namespaces, like within a like cluster set, I think is the terminology they're using for a group of clusters. Whereas I think SMI could potentially fill the gap between like heterogeneous cluster relationships where there is not that assumption of identity.
I see.
Or be able to like just defer to some of the MCS implementation for instances where there is the shared identity.
Mike, I love how you think about that. I think we should resurrect that conversation and start chatting again with this context. We can take a slightly different look at it and continue.
Yeah, I would love that. And I'm switching to a slightly different role within HashiCorp. So I'm no longer going to be an engineering manager, and I will be hands-on on our console API gateway project, which we just announced last week, I think. So I'll be focused a lot on the like emerging gateway API spec, and also thinking about how that relates to like MCS and SMI stuff potentially. So
so you're going to continue to be involved with this community.
Yeah, I'll continue to be involved, but we'll likely be able to be more hands-on at some point in the future. So.
Oh, wonderful.
Yeah.
all right, that's always great news when someone says, I have a new role, and you wince and you're like, does this mean you're going to drop off of this call? Actually, you'll be here more. Fantastic.
I was worried as well. Glad to hear.
Okay. Yeah, I think we we certainly have some work to do over the less active holiday period in terms of resurrecting multi-cluster discussions and maybe making sure that we have all of these, both the groups in GitHub and any other adjustments we want to make set up. So we have some work to do there. Okay, we're at the end of our agenda. Anyone have any last thoughts, parting words, or ideas that we should take with us before we meet again in 2 weeks?
I'm going to ping you all async on resurrecting the multi-cluster. I'll do some homework. Let's see if we can get this going. Keith, are you interested in multi-cluster as well?
Very much so. It's something I've been working on during the day job. So be happy to take part in any discussions that you guys are having.
Keith, are you allowed to tell us, are you using a particular service mesh and trying to multi-cluster them?
Yes, I just set up, I think 5 clusters in an Istio service mesh multi-cluster. So got some lots of thoughts in that space.
Oh, wonderful. All right, we'll do some async homework to kind of resurrect, re-energize the multi-cluster space. Awesome.
Sounds good.
Great, I'm excited.
Also, the reason we had a separate working group for a while was that this meeting was too jam-packed to have multi-cluster be a frequent topic in it. And since it isn't currently, we certainly do have some room here. So if somebody has, before we close up today, if somebody has anything multi-cluster-ish that they want to drop a link in or point to, we have the room in the next 10 minutes to talk about that if you like.
Nothing just yet from me.
I can go dig up the link, but Laura's talk from KubeCon is definitely worth watching for folks who have not seen it and would be interested.
Oh, Mike, please share. I would love to see it.
Let me go
I have not caught up on KubeCon talks yet.
This is around multi-cluster specifically.
You said Laura was the speaker.
Yeah.
Okay, great.
I don't have a link right now. But
Do you have the last
I don't know
name?
if the videos have been posted quite yet publicly.
I see.
Yeah, I think the CNCF YouTube will have those all out at some point.
Okay.
We'll
be
We'll certainly add them to media notes in the public.
And I think the talks for Service Mesh Con are already up. So I know that we had a panel discussion that Phil Gibson was on with a bunch of folks from other service meshes. That was pretty good. So yeah. Put links as we find those. But okay. I think we'll wrap that here then today, and we will see you folks on GitHub and see you here in 2 weeks' time.
Good to see you. See you next time.
See ya.
Thanks.
See you.
Bye.
Bye.